So let's just grab the box, go into isolation mode again, trash our symmetry. For this we might have to cut the bottom and the top off. Let's maybe try just put an unwrap on here, and again we're going to have the weird seams. I'm just going to ignore them. Go to edge and let's maybe cut this right here on this one. I think you can cut it down here if you want to, but I'm just going to grab that one up there, do a loop on it, convert it to a seam, and then we'll just split the corner somewhere. So let's maybe do it back here, which should be on the back, and we want to make sure we go all the way up to the top of the chamfer. So just control click that one and then convert it to a seam. And again, you can always use point to point instead if you want to. All right, so face, grab the ball and polygon, expand your selection. I'm just going to use planar map here, so we'll hit that, turn it off. And for the sides, we can probably use either pelt or unfold. Let's just pelt it for now. All right, just pull it out and commit. Throw the checker pattern on so we can see. Hit F2 so we can turn off our shading. And we'll just quickly relax these. So I'm just going to pull this out of the way, turn off my checker. Turn on sync to element down here so I can grab the whole piece, and I'm just going to kind of straighten it out with rotate. And we'll open up the relax dialog again, change our amount, change our mode to face, and we'll just relax this chunk here. And this one might not turn out perfectly straight, but I'm going to try. So just relax a couple times. It's not perfect, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. If you want to, you can re-straighten it with the options here, or just grab the vert selection if you're using the script and just straighten those out. But for the most part, I think I'm going to leave it, and we'll just stitch it back together. So let's rescale our elements, and we'll just grab edge, turn off by element. Just grab one of these bottom or top edges. Looks like it's the top. Just right click and stitch selected. We'll just put the bottom back on. If you want to do another relax, you can. And you can always move stuff by hand, you know, if you want to straighten stuff out. You don't just have to use relax. But that's fine, I'm just going to leave it, and we'll just shove this down here somewhere with move, and we'll close it up. Exit. Just give it a quick look. It looks fine. So we'll just keep moving to the next piece, which is this other box detail. So again, into isolation mode, trash the symmetry. And we'll just maybe cut off the top and bottom of this. So again, let's put the unwrap on. And I'll use point to point here, just for a change. And I'm just going to cut it just along the bottom faces. And you don't necessarily need to cut seams, you know, around everything. You can just use polygon selections as well. I just prefer to do it this way, so I know I'm getting it right where I want it. But there's other ways to do it as well. And I'd recommend, you know, if you're not really familiar with mapping, it can be a hard thing to get your head around. So best thing to do is just kind of experiment with different techniques, and then, you know, usually it just makes sense all of a sudden. I actually had a really hard time learning it. When I first started, I couldn't really get my head around it, but eventually just clicked. And once it does, it's not really hard anymore. All right, so I'm just cutting a seam around the top and the bottom, and one up the side, and we're just going to split this into 3 pieces. So let's hit F2 here so we can see. Just going to grab that single bottom face, planar map that, grab the top one here, expand it, just planar map those. Again, for the side, I'm just going to expand it. We can use pelt. You can use unfold too. That'll work on some things, which I'll show you. See if it works on this. So I'm just going to move this up and just rotate it. And in the mapping options here, you have a few different ones. Flat mapping will break the polygons up based on the angle, which I'll show you. So if you go to flat mapping, it's set to 45 degrees by default, and it's going to break the polygons at that angle. So if you just hit OK, it just breaks it up based on the angle. And you can just stitch that back together if you want to. It's a good option. It takes a little bit of time, but it has its uses. And then you have normal mapping, which will just kind of unfold it into pieces. You can see it's kind of weird. I don't really use that too much. I prefer to stay away from it. And then you have unfold mapping, which again, will just kind of unfold it. So I'm just going to hit OK here. And you can see it unfolded the sides perfectly straight. Because I cut the seam down here below the chamfer, and this one I cut above the chamfer, it's actually detached those faces, which are the chamfer edges here. So what you could do is just detach these, break them off of this piece, and then stitch them back on. And I'll show you this again on a better piece, but for now I'm just going to undo that. And I'm just going to relax it when it's still pelt mapped. Alright, let's undo that. Let's make sure we have face angle selected. And this, for the most part, will kind of straighten it out. And it is a little faster, so that's usually the method I use, but the other ones are good as well. So the end's kind of bent here, so I'm just going to go to vertex, grab these verts, and just move them kind of up, kind of straighten this out. And don't be afraid to pull stuff around if you have to manually, if it's not working for you with the other techniques. Alright, so I'm just going to grab these, let's just relax those as well. And we'll just kind of stitch this back together. So I'm going to turn off by element, grab edge, and just grab an edge on our strip. Zoom in, make sure I'm getting the right one. Just going to stitch selected here. Do the same at the top, stitch selected. And if we put our UV pattern on here, the corners are probably going to be a little distorted, as you can see. And that's because these edges are actually being pulled apart. So it's stretching. So relax tool will usually take care of that. So I'm just going to grab the whole chunk and just relax once or twice and just even everything out. And it looks fairly even now. Alright, so that's good for that piece. Let's just move it over here, close this up, exit isolation mode, get rid of the material editor, and we'll just take a quick look. And again, these seams obviously aren't very well hidden, but I'm going to try to hide that later when we texture it. So we'll just move up to the next piece, which I guess will be this rod piece on the side of the leg here. And we have 4 of these on the model, but we only need to map 1, so we'll just start with the top one here. Go in isolation mode, trash our symmetry again. This one's going to be a little awkward because it's so long and thin, but I think I'm just going to cut off the bottom to start. So again, we'll put on the unwrap. Let's maybe go to edge, and I think I'm just going to cut off the whole bottom here. So let's maybe just grab this edge right here, loop it, cut it into a seam, and then we're going to need to split the shaft here. So I'm just going to go up to the top and just hack off this top piece. And you can select an edge and hit Z or Z to zoom in on it if you're having a problem rotating and seeing what you're doing. All right, so we'll just loop this as well. Hit the button, cut it into a seam, and then for the sides here, I think I'm going to cut this off. So let's maybe cut it right here. Same deal, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. We might be able to get the top in one piece, so we'll try it. So let's loop that and convert it to a seam. I'm just going to leave the top as is, and we'll see if we can kind of straighten out. We're going to have a little distortion on the sides, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm just going to grab an edge running down the length of the shaft, do another loop, convert to a seam. All right, let's zoom around here. And again, it's gone right up to the top, so I'm just going to go to Edit Seams and just alt click these guys right here. Right, a little awkward to see. All right, I got most of them, so I'll just turn that off. And we can always weld that together if it splits. Probably be a little easier. So let's go down to the bottom, and again, just make sure that your seams match up. And I'll just deselect these ones if I can. You just want the seams to be touching each other. So that should work. So let's go to polygon. We'll start on the bottom. Just grab the bottom face, expand our selection again, and planar map it. Go to the shaft part, grab a face, expand it. For this we can use cylindrical, so we'll just turn that on, turn it off, move up to the top, and I think I'm going to map this piece here with planar, so I'm just going to expand the selection on the flat piece, planar map it, grab it on the side, expand it, we use cylindrical here, and we'll move to the top, and I think I'll just try to pelt map the whole top, so we'll expand our selection, hit pelt map, stretch it out, commit, and I think we're good to go. So let's throw the checker pattern on. Gonna try to keep this over here so I can kind of see what's going on, but it's a little bit awkward. And again, we're just gonna pull our pieces out here. So let's turn on by element, grab our chunks and just move them out of the way. And we'll just start relaxing stuff. So I'm gonna start with the top. If I can rotate this so you can see. And this is going to be a little bit distorted on the sides because of the way I cut it up, but I'm just going to relax it. So again, just up your amount, change your mode, relax. Grab the next pieces. This is the bottom, I'm just going to relax that. This is the bottom of this piece here. So that should be fine, just relax it quickly. Here's the shaft. We're going to have to scale this one. So I'm just going to change my mode again to the vertical scale. And because it's so long and thin, and these are huge long polygons, they really need to be long on our UVs. So just scale them up. And the taller you make it, you can see it's starting to become square. All right, so just get them fairly close like that. Stick this over here. Let's grab that next piece, which is the side of this bolt head type deal. And we're just gonna have to squash this down. So let's use the same scale and just go down until it's fairly square. Doesn't have to be perfect, something like that's probably fine. I might just try to relax this. Just make sure there's no distortion if I can help it. And let's do that on the side as well. And I'm going to rescale. And there's no real good way to stitch this back together, so I'm not even going to bother trying. I'm just going to actually stack everything above the top. So just pull the cap up, the bottom, these guys here. Let's zoom in so we can actually get a hold of it. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to randomly drop them up here, and I'm going to worry about it later. So just like that's fine. And then again, just move your chunk out of the way. You can scale this down if you want to. You don't have to leave them so massive. If you want to take them down a bit, you can. But again, I'm just going to worry about that at the end. So I'll just leave it over there, close this up, exit. Take one quick look, see if everything's looking okay. You can see I cut the seam here, and like I was mentioning, it's a good idea to try to hide it if you can so people don't obviously see a huge seam in your texture. To do that, it's usually pretty easy. Just select your piece. I'm just going to actually change the pivot point. You can see it's down here at the end still. So we're going to the Hierarchy tab, hit Effect Pivot Only and Centered Object. And then I'm going to change my rotation coordinates here to local. I want to maintain the angle it's on when we rotate, so change it to local. And we'll just give this a little bit of a spin. I'm just going to zoom in and just rotate it around a bit. All right, let's select it so you can see our seam. And there it is right there. So I'm just going to spin it around until it's kind of hidden back there where you won't really see it. And there's the one that Max automatically added. I'm just going to take a look and just make sure I didn't leave anything split open. And now that looks good. And again, you just want to make sure that the border's the only green part, in most cases anyway. So that's fine. All right, so like I said, we have basically 4 of these exact same pieces, and we only really have to map one. So one thing you can do is copy UVs from one piece to another piece. So I'll show you how to do that right now. So I'm just gonna grab the piece that we just mapped. Up here in the Unwrap UVW rollout, you'll see an option for saving. So just hit save, and we'll just call this rod or something, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna save it as a .uvw file. So just hit save, and then we'll grab the next one that isn't mapped. Again, I'm gonna delete the symmetry on it, and we'll put our checker pattern on. And we'll put the unwrap on top of that. And then instead of using save, we'll use load. So just hit load, find the rod UVs you just saved, and open those. Okay, and you can see what it did. It applied the exact same mapping from this piece to this one. And that's a really good time-saving technique. It only does work if you have the same vert count on both pieces though. So if this was slightly different or there's a little bit more detail in this one, it wouldn't work because it doesn't have the same amount of faces. All right, but that takes care of those guys. So we'll move on to this box piece now. I think I might do a save quickly just in case we have a crash or lose some of our work.